Brian Sebastian with movie reviews and more, and we're horsing around. Here we are in chilly Southern California.
It is chilly.
With Marie Maloy. And you've had a long day today. Where did you come from today?
We were over at the USDF Symposium over at the Del Mar racetrack and had a lot of great dressage riding going on, and I was working a vendor booth.
Why was that?
Why was I working the vendor booth?
Yes.
Well, it's this funny thing about horsing around. It does take some change to do it. And I have this wonderful husband who lives at home, but his philosophy is if I can pay for it, I can go do it. So I picked up a side business a couple of years ago, and I come horse around and work in the same time.
And that's a good thing, actually, too. And I met you in Sacramento.
We did meet at the horse show. That's right.
The show. And it was interesting because you had this whole sort of device called the third plate, which I really, really like. Now, how did you get involved in that? How did that happen?
I got involved in it just like you did, Brian. I walked into a booth. There was a equestrian affair going on in Wichita, Kansas. And I walked into this guy's booth and started playing with his products. And 4 days later, I was still in the booth, and he's like, "Do you want a job?" And I was like, "Well, you know, I actually have a job, but if you're looking for something part-time, I may be your girl." So that's been a couple of years ago. We've been working together, and it just works. So when I go to shows, I take the products along and set up my booth and show on the side, and then try and sell some products at the same time. So it's been fun.
And we showed earlier before you got here, because you were running around doing stuff.
I was working while you guys were playing.
Which is
That's
a good
right.
thing these days, obviously. And we had Rebecca Rigdon on, and we were talking about how easy it is to get most of the horses on. I'm sure there are some that won't get on it, but once they do get on it, they enjoy it. Why is that, though?
Well, you know, I think it comes down to when, like at the show this weekend, we didn't have horses getting on the plate, but we had it in the booth and had people getting on the booth continually. And people walk up on the plate and they go, and it's the same thing that the horses do. You know, it really, somebody today said to me, you know, it feels good. And it does. And I think the horses say the same thing. They have tired muscles, they have sore legs, and they get on the plate and they feel that massage action going on. And they do the same thing that people do. They just go, oh. So it feels good to them.
But, you know, what some people have come up to you and said it sort of feels, though, it looks like a scale. But why does it feel good? What does it do?
It's always the women who say, I'm not getting on that, it must be a scale. So it's always the women, the guys don't mind. You know, because it's the muscle work. And like this morning at the show, it was really cold. And people kept getting on the plate and feeling the therapy going on and going, is there a heater in that? And I just would kind of laugh and go, that's not a heater. What you're feeling is blood flow. Because the action of the plate creates immediate blood flow. And that blood flow to the people with cold feet this morning was translating into the fact that they thought there was a heater in the plate, which there's actually not. It's just the vortex wave that goes on, that mechanical contraction that goes on that creates a blood flow that gives the feeling of warmth, which it is because it's blood flow.
And I'm glad she described it and not me, because it's hard to describe if you don't know really what it is. But it's really good, and it's light too, isn't it?
The machine?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a girl, and I carry this machine around. And part of, I think, the advantage of our system is that it is portable. And I think it's important if you have a horse who spends time every day at home with any kind of therapy, whether it be, you know, a blanket or a TheraPlate or whatever kind of therapy you're doing at home, it's important that when you go to the show and you put them in an even more stressful situation, that you give them the benefit of that therapy when they most need it. Trailering, showing, stressful situations.
And for example, Rebecca, she puts her horse on, 20 minutes before and then 20 minutes after. What does that do before? What does it do after?
Well, so there's a lot of different reasons we use the plate. For Rebecca's horse and my horse both, we're using it as a warm-up and a cool-down. So our horses are athletes just like any other athlete, and it's really important to get those muscles and joints warmed up before you work. So in the whole scheme of things, we talk about miles ridden, and you want to make sure that the miles and the time that you spend on the horse are time well spent. So if you can do a lot of the warm-up before you get on and start working, then you've maximized your ride time. And that's what the TheraPlate does very well, is because when you get on the horse, those joints and muscles are all really warm. And you've got that synovial fluid in the joint all warmed, and so the joint's good and ready to go to work.
Right.
So it's really good. It's also important on the cool down, and that cool down is just as important, so that after your work, that you give those muscles a chance to cool down and that blood flow to clean and get all the toxins and waste out of the muscle, so that when you put them up, they're in a healthy and relaxed state of mind. So the cool down is just as important. Now, when we talk about the TheraPlate for horses that have injuries, then we do it differently. Like if you have a horse that has a torn suspensory ligament, then we're doing therapy and really wanting to have that horse on the plate like 3 times a day, 20 minutes a session. And for that, we're really going after blood flow to that area of injury so that we can get a better repair.
What are some of the weird questions that you get from people before they do it, and then they realize afterwards?
Well, you know,
I'm sure you've heard some doozies.
We are talking about the world's largest vibrator. So,
absolutely.
If you want to talk about,
that's why I'm asking
if you want to talk about some of the questions I get, some of them are pretty embarrassing and probably not to be repeated on the camera. But you know, it's I mean, probably the question I get the most is, how do you get horses to get up on it? And my response back to them always is, it's not getting them on it, it's more getting them off.
Right.
Because it's just like people. And at the show this weekend, you know, people will come through and get on it once and stand there, and then they become this repeat customer. And they will just come by continually, you know, every couple of hours and come by and stand. Because it does. The therapy itself is the best sales point because it feels good. And, you know, anytime I talk to a person about anything, whether it be medical in the human world or alternative therapy in the horse world, the most important thing you always have to remember in any therapy is at first do no harm. And, you know, no matter what you're doing, you always have to weigh the downside versus benefit. And I think that the most powerful thing about the TheraPlate is there really is no downside. There's virtually no risk to it. And in the whole scheme of things, it's very cost effective.